As I shared, one of the reasons I'm here is because I believe in these principles, and I know that my job is to teach and share the principles so we have prosperity for all. Now, prosperity won't look the same for each and every person by any means, but prosperity is our consciousness, knowing that we have everything we need. And by looking at our graph, and when we got together as a board and leadership team, it made me sad that I didn't feel like I was doing my job well enough. That I need to take a step up and make sure that we all understand the principles of prosperity and how we live in that rolling river God, the flow of abundant good. And I know the first thing our board did and our leadership team is we asked ourselves, my goodness, where do we need to step up? Where do we need to take responsibility, and what do we need to do? And it was amazing that we all started donating more and doing more and sharing more so we could be in that flow, because we realized we had to have a restriction somewhere. And we want to be in that flow. So I want you to keep in mind, why am I here? And the flow of that rolling river God. Because I believe deeply, sincerely, that when we are in alignment, our beliefs with the spiritual principles, we prosper. When we can really be in alignment with those universal principles, the truth, it doesn't mean, now if you heard our beautiful sharers this morning, we grow by being broken open. So a prosperous life doesn't mean you don't have challenges and lose a job and have illness. It doesn't mean that at all. It means that deep inside you there is a faith that the presence of God is there always, in and through everything. And you could feel that with the sharing that happened today. So let me tell you this, what I want to talk to you about today isn't that we just live on the bright side of life all the time and that's a prosperous life. The Bible says deep calls unto deep. And to me that means when we're willing to step aside from our surface consciousness of living and go deep and be immersed in the presence of God, then no matter what's happening on this level of experience, no matter what the conditions are in our life, we will be in alignment with the greater truth. I know in my own life and life of so many of you here, this has been a rocky, bumpy year in many ways. And still, when you have the connection to God, that connection when we put God first, these are experiences to grow and learn from, not to keep us down. Ernest Holmes has a beautiful answer to this deep calls unto deep, how we live in that place of wholeness, absolutely filled and immersed in spiritual principles. And he said this happens with the gradual dawning of a sense of unity with the whole that takes place over time. We should be happy if our tendency is in the right direction. So those days when you are less than maybe what you want to be, it's okay. We want to keep the tendency of our thoughts moving towards love and wholeness and goodness and understanding and peace and happiness. And he goes on to say, so do not try to force things. Again, the water, be in the flow so we can ride the waves and be at peace. Do not try to force things. Rather, in the quiet of your own mind and thought and heart, seek the divine presence. That, to me, is abundance. When we can be in that place where we can know without a doubt that God is present. Because you know, the thing that is an absolute conflict with prosperity is doubt. If we live continually focusing on what we don't have, if that's our tendency to focus on limitation and not enoughness, there is no way we can live in that divine flow of God's abundant good. When Jeff said, I love that, we are in the spiritual development business. That's what we're doing. We're developing this spiritual, that's why we're here as humans, developing this spiritual connection, remembering that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Somewhere, sometime, something got off track. You know, money started as an exchange, just an exchange for things, goods, items, services. But somewhere along the line, we started thinking we live in a world of success and fame and power, and we start putting our minds there and start evaluating ourselves. Oh, well, gosh, I'm not as good as that, so I must not be good. Well, I don't have that, well, I must not be good. This isn't the world we live in, really. The reality is we live in God's world. We live in God's world. And that's the deep calling unto deep. We can't look at that beautiful river with all of its expressions, its twists and turns. We can't be sitting on the bank of the river and expect to be in the circulation of life. You see, for me, water is like circulation. It's like blood that flows through us. It's circulating. That beautiful author and poet, Mark Nepo, there was a segment of his book about, how did he say it? There's a place and time in our lives where we don't know the difference between giving and receiving. It doesn't happen on the surface of life. It happens below the surface. It's the time when you hug someone you love and you don't know where you begin and you stop. It's a time when you stand at the edge of beauty. And again, you don't know where you begin and it starts. There's a place in us that doesn't know the difference in the giving and receiving and the circulation of our being, rolling river God. When we can be immersed in the energy and we can feel compassion and love and happiness and joy and understanding no matter what's going on. No matter what it is that's happening, we know we're in the flow of consciousness. So the first thing we need to do, it's not as this is a tendency for us. It's not that we're there all the time. So my question to you this morning would be, where do you feel really rich in your life? Could be rich in love, rich in money, rich in relationships, rich in creative expression. Where do you feel really rich in your life? And I would almost guarantee you, when that comes up, your heart will open. Rich doesn't necessarily mean, by any means, having a whole bunch of money. It can. And some very aligned and prosperous people have a lot of money, and that's beautiful. But that's not what it takes. A prosperous consciousness is feeling rich and abundant right where you are. Right where you are. So, where do you feel rich and abundant and prosperous? And where right now are you aware that you have a crimp in your hose? Where you're focusing on limitation and lack and doubt more than you are the abundant world in which we live. I guarantee you, if you just become aware of something, and you know that you're in the spiritual development business, and you put a high focus on that. You could hear from both Deanna and Tiffany that when times got tough, they started doing their spiritual practices. They didn't wait for it to happen to them. You see, because in this teaching, yes, we believe we're inspired when we tap into that still small voice within. We're inspired, but it doesn't stop there. We have to turn that inspiration into achievement. We have to do something about it. We believe that when we contemplate and meditate and open the space for life to seep through, that's not enough. We have to turn contemplation into participation and prayer into performance. I'm sure you didn't get pregnant, Tiffany, just by all those prayers you said.
I got it.
Okay. We have to do our part. Got to do our part. So I'm going to share with you a quote from John 7 in the Bible from Jesus, because I truly believe that if we put God first, if we put the kingdom of heaven first, then everything else falls into place. It doesn't mean we get immediately what we want or immediately what we desire, but we understand there's a process. It takes time. It just puts us in alignment with the harmony of life. Jesus stood and he cried out to his disciples, "If anyone thirsts," and to me, thirst means wanting more. And I guarantee you, is there anybody here that wants more in their life? Yes, because that's how we're designed and programmed. We want more. We're evolutionary beings. It's part of the process. We're not to sit stagnant. Remember, not to just sit there. We need to be in the flow of life. So Jesus said, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me. And it was not Jesus, the man. It's this consciousness of with God, all things are possible. It's the consciousness of put love first. It's the consciousness of unify with oneness and the whole. That's what he's saying. And drink. Be in the flow. Go deep. Fill yourself with that knowing. He goes on to say, he who believes in me, and believes in me would be God and I are one. He who believes in me is love God and love your neighbor. Love comes first. Love heals. He who believes in me, out of his own heart, will flow rivers of living water. And it's the water of the circulation of life. The place where we're just so immersed in life, we're not sure. I asked a friend, tell me what's a physical experience that you've had? Like I said, when I felt like a hug where you don't know where you begin or end. What's a physical experience you have? And he shared floating down a river on an inner tube. Just feeling so at one with life. And it's so beautiful. That's what I mean. The living waters will flow through you. So we flow and we make sense of life. I want to close today with two prayers from Ernest Holmes, two prosperity prayers. Because truly, our goal as for myself and our board and our leadership team is that we all raise up to a level of prosperous living. Does that sound good? Yes, it does. Prosperous living in our life because we want to live in that flow. So I want you to unwrap yourselves, untie yourselves, unknot yourselves, undo yourselves. And just breathe in this moment. Just breathe in to be in that flow of life and truly know that in this moment we radiate life as we choose to be activated by that infinite presence that's always there. And I'm simply going to speak these prayers, one from the Science of Mind textbook and the other from Questions and Answers by Ernest Holmes. I'm going to speak these prayers in the first person, and I invite you to accept them for yourself. Simply breathing in and going deep. Feeling the connection and the awareness that we truly are one with all life. I identify myself with abundant living. In this moment, I surrender all fear and doubt. I let go of all uncertainty. I know there is no lack of any good thing in my experience, for the presence of God is within me. The freedom of God is my freedom, and I now cease dwelling on limitation, and I give my earnest attention, my focus, my power. I give that to the particular abundance I desire. The abundance of God fills my desire now. I truly know that all supply is of spirit. And money represents a form of my supply. Money is a divine idea. It flows to and from me, enabling me to be comfortable, prosperous, and to enjoy the pleasures of life. God withholds no good thing from me. The mind which created me now stimulates my thought into greater right activity. I know in this world that I can only receive that which I accept. And right now, I accept the good that is mine. I open as I align myself with this truth. I open. I feel alive. I feel awake. I am free. I'm not in bondage to money or limitation or doubt or fear. Instead, I see that life serves me now. Money serves me now. My thoughts serve me now. I know that as love is the energy of God, I know that money is a symbol of God's abundance, and I accept it now as rightfully mine. I accept whatever it is in my heart that I desire right now. If it's a relationship, if it's finances, if it's the perfect and right job, career, creative expression, if it's to be open and available to more spiritual awakening and understanding and development in my life, I am that now. I know it, I accept it, I feel it. And as I release these thoughts to that infinite mind, the law of mind of God right now, as I release it into that power that only knows to return to me that which it is given, I am open and available right now. I am ready and thankful and joyous as I close my prayer the beautiful way that little Adam did. And so it is, amen. And so right now, I know as we align with that wonderful energy, I know for each of us, we leave here today feeling good, feeling very good, open and receptive to the abundant world in which we live, and absolutely supportive and loving of this community in which we can grow and expand, support, and give, where we don't know where the giving and receiving ends. We simply know that we are here for each other. And so it is. God bless you all.